It's Mondo, and he rates. Mondo rates. Mondo rates. Mondo.
For the purpose of this record,
rates.
wide range of
Mondo
frequencies.
rates. Mondo rates. Mondo rates. Mondo rates. Hello everyone to Mondo rates.
Hello, Internet! It is I, Mondo, back from a serious hiatus with a brand new episode of Mondo Rates. We apologize for the delay. This week we will be discussing comic book movies. And joining me this week is a musical talent from J360, Dev.
Hey guys, what's up?
Comic book movies, as of recent years, have become more and more prevalent in today's society, with a fairly large impact on the way people now perceive comic books and these characters. Now, the multiple companies that do these things use comic books from a couple different sources. There are some Dark Horse comics out there, but the two main ones are DC and Marvel, which, as we know, are the juggernauts of comic books. In terms of movies, Marvel tends to be the one that's held a little bit higher in that regard. Wouldn't you say, Dev?
I would also say that, but you also have to take into account that DC does try to, I guess, be competitive with them, so to speak.
They lack continuity with a lot of their films.
Well, I know they're doing Batman and Superman.
And Wonder Woman. Do not forget Wonder Woman.
for God knows what reason they're throwing her in there. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me.
They need a hot bitch. And they figured the best way to do this is to just throw Wonder Woman in. They're like, no, let's not bring... They're like, we don't want to bring any of Superman's girlfriend because we don't want to put in a Batman girlfriend. We just want a third-party hot chick that's really probably not going to side with either one too much. So it was like, let's throw in Wonder Woman. Why the hell not? I think really they're just trying to do an early Justice League movie without actually doing a Justice League movie.
It's bad, to be honest, because if you really look at it, you're just throwing random superheroes. Wonder Woman has nothing to do with anything. There's, just throw them in there. They're pretty much trying to get the average consumer, make a quick dollar with this one. It's unfortunate, though.
But that's how comic book movies really got their start. I mean, some of the first comic book movies done way, way back when were very loosely based on the source material. It's only in more recent times that certain companies, Marvel, have actually tried to base... I'm sorry, I have a little cough there. Have actually tried to base their movies more on the source material than not. There are a few DC movies that stay relatively close. I mean, the Batman Begins trilogy, in the very first movie, actually stayed pretty close to Batman's origin. Fairly close. But still, towards the end there, they just got... let's say, fuck it.
Okay, I could say this about the Batman trilogy. Out of all the DC superheroes, as far as movies go, that one is the best as far as the trilogy goes, and it's number one. It's pretty much what got them in the forefront and got them in the public eye.
I mean, their Superman movies, they keep rebooting them. Like, every new Superman movie is a reboot of 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 a reboot.
I guess they're just trying to wait for the Superman movie to come out so they can make a sequel to it, and they haven't done it over like 20 years. So I'm like, how many times can you tell the same story before it becomes too old?
Yeah. I mean, technically, I think this one where it's Batman vs. Superman is a sequel. If I'm remembering correctly, I heard it was a sequel to the Man of Steel movie. So we're going to see that dark Superman that doesn't make any sense reappear because he just doesn't give a fuck about human life type shit.
That's not Superman, to be honest.
The bulk of that movie is him being a hobo that uses his powers without care, but still tries to hide. He is literally as powerful as he wants and or needs to be. He does not have a limit of power. So his only real limit is the limits he imposes upon himself, which is just really, really bad when you want to take that character that is so overpowered and put them into something like a movie. you have to think, okay, how much power do we realistically want him to have without making this movie just outright boring? Because if we give him too much and he utterly crushes his villains, we got a crap for a movie. If we give him too little, people are going to bitch because he's getting his ass whooped left and right. Give him just enough, and there's utter carnage everywhere. Because he doesn't give a shit about, collateral damage. Which it's Superman, he never really does.
I mean, honestly, what superhero in history has ever paid for collateral damage?
None of them.
DC has had some flops, like Green Lantern.
Yeah. But I heard for the longest time that they were going to make sequels to that.
Okay, why?
Sometimes they were going to try and make that a trilogy. But that could have just been purely speculative rumors. I mean, they happen all the time with movies.
As far as Green Lantern goes, what I looked up, everything's speculation so far. They've had interviews where they're kind of hinting toward the second movie. But we all know the trait of a good movie is to leave them wanting more. And you always hints like, oh, we might be making a second movie. But there's been no official release date. There's been no official, we are definitely making this movie. I think the movie came out, 2011?
I think so. I'm not 100%. Don't quote us on that, internet.
Media is June 16th, 2011. That's when the release date for the first Green Lantern was. And we were all disappointed greatly on that day.
Well, Green Lantern fans were all greatly disappointed. I knew it was going to be horrible. And it was. Oh, the biggest part that I think people hated about that particular comic book movie was the fact that they gave him a CGI suit. It's like, we get it. Green Lantern wears a skin-tight leotard. We understand that. Just give him an actual leotard and an actual mask, which, in my opinion, if you wanted to make a Green Lantern movie, should have done it with Jon Stewart, not with Hal Jordan.
I love Jon Stewart. He's actually, if you want to get a lot more people go, he's the most recognizable Green Lantern of our generation.
Yeah. Especially because of the whole Justice League.
Justice League, exactly. Actually, not even Unlimited, just Justice League in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
That expanding to Justice League Unlimited. Warner Brothers has exactly 11 DC comic book movies in development.
God damn.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers is sick with shit.
Even though they have nothing on Marvel, but just throwing that out.
We're
not being biased.
Avengers crushed Justice League. We know this.
Oh, definitely.
Most Marvel characters have their own solo movies, with the exception of Black Widow and Hawkeye. They don't get their own movie. Nick Fury doesn't get his own movie. Nope. For that, they just throw in the Avengers. It's like, Avengers, bitch! It's like, that covers them, but the main guys that you want to see get their own movies, like Iron Man has his own trilogy, Captain America has his own two.
Hold on, wait. I still have a problem with the Hulk because I still want to see a trilogy for that, and I don't want them to keep switching Hulks. I at least want consistency with the Hulk movies then.
Well, they're committed to Mark Ruffalo now. They are, as playing the Hulk.
Okay.
He's committed because he's playing the Hulk in Avengers 2. So any new Hulk movie that Marvel does is probably going to have Mark Ruffalo.
Alright, I can deal with that. How do you feel about the Thor movies as a whole?
I don't like the character of Thor. I don't like his comics. I don't like the character. Yes, he's an Avenger. Yes, I like the Avengers as a whole. The story is done okay in the first one, and yeah, okay, I get they're trying to explain a lot of shit, but he's a prince from a godlike race of aliens. Fuck him. He gets the hot bitch. Of course he gets the hot bitch. Yet again, pompous prince of a godly alien race. Because Natalie Portman is hot. We all.
That's.
And then Thor 2, he basically comes back to rehook up with said hot bitch from the first one after like months and months and months after he said, "I'll be right back." No, he ran his ass. And at the same time he's going back to get with this bitch, he has another hot bitch back home. And yet there's no problem with this shit. Yeah, his dad says, "Don't mess with the mortal, blah, 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 blah." But when the fuck does Thor ever listen to his dad?
When does Thor ever listen to anyone?
True. And then there's the whole thing at the end of Thor 2. Loki takes Odin's place in Asgard after the whole debacle, and Thor doesn't know. Thor just goes back to Earth, and is like, oh, well, fuck it, you know.
I was never surprised about that. He was eventually going to take over anyway because he's always thought that's been his rightful place.
That his birthright is to rule. That's basically Thor. That's the only reason Thor helps out Earth. If it wasn't that he found a hot bitch that he wanted to spoink on Earth, he probably wouldn't give a damn. Some of the best Marvel characters, they can't put inside of the Marvel Universe because, if I remember correctly, it's Fox and Sony that own respectively different things. I think Sony owns the rights to the Spider-Man movies, if I remember correctly, and Fox owns X-Men and Fantastic Four.
And we know how Fox is, so we will not get to see a lot of team-ups.
We're not going to see any of the interactions between, let's just say, Spider-Man and the X-Men.
Just to touch on X-Men, we all know that all the X-Men movies are strictly Wolverine movies.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and it's overexploited. No offense to Hugh Jackman, and what...
Hugh Jackman does a good Wolverine movie, and we understand. He is the man you want to play Wolverine.
It's iconic. But my problem is with the movie production people is why did you center too much
around one character?
Exactly.
Like, we get it. Wolverine is an incredibly popular X-Men. The stories revolve around the team, not around the individual so much. It's what the team has to go through.
Yeah, but they haven't made this team oriented at all. They
even
around one
fucked up
character.
the teams. They fucked up the team formations. I mean,
it's beyond saving. You can't save it now because I believe what's the name of the newest X-Men?
Days of Future Past,
Yeah,
where it's the reboot that's supposed to fix everything.
How can you fix everything if you're going back and still centering it around Wolverine and having him be the leader when he's never wanted to be the leader? He still doesn't want to be the leader, and it's always been Cyclops leading the X-Men.
Cyclops leads the X-Men. They even fucked up the Phoenix Saga. It's like, how do you fuck up the Phoenix Saga? Even the animated X-Men series managed to do justice to the Phoenix Saga. Which brings us to a flaw of comic book movies nowadays, i.e. Spider-Man movies. They like to use too many villains at once.
True.
I mean, let's talk about the original Spider-Man 3. You know, no offense to Spider-Man fans.
Hold on.
They made a mistake in
I
that
gotta touch on the Amazing Spider-Man 2 real quick since that is the latest movie.
Yeah, it is the latest movie. I have not seen it though, so I can't comment.
Pretty much in this Spider-Man movie, were 3 villains introduced. Electro was the main one. The Green Goblin was subpar, and the Rhino was introduced at the end of the movie.
Which Green Goblin though? Was it?
The original. It's pretty much.
Is it Norman or is it Harry?
It's Harry. Because Norman died in that movie in Spider-Man 2. Norman died. Yeah.
I didn't know that part. Okay.
He did die. He pretty much sent his son off to boarding school. And when he came back, he said, I have this disease. You can be the one that try to fix it and blah, blah, blah. And towards near the end of the movie before Gwen Stacy, before she dies.
The Green Goblin.
She always dies.
She has to.
It's in the comic book. She dies. And it has to be Spider-Man's fault she dies, too.
Exactly. So, at least one thing I would say about this, at least in The Amazing Spider-Man, they're following the comic.
Yeah, I thank them for that. The one flaw I had with the first Amazing Spider-Man, though, they took like 3 minutes to say, with great power comes great responsibility. It's like 5 words, man. They could have said it in half a second, got it done, and only said it once the entire movie. Instead of abusing it like a dead cat like the original trilogy did.
Yeah, personally, I wanted to see the Hobgoblin too, but I mean, we all can't get what we want.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see the Sinister Six in the upcoming Spider-Man movie whenever
the release date is released.
Yeah, but the thing about Sinister Six, they haven't, I think, established enough of the Spider-Man's villains to actually go into
Oh, no. But you were seeing a glimpse of all the suits inside the underground lab in, Oscorp.
It's been a while since I've actually seen the Sinister Six or read about Sinister Six. As a whole, comic book movies, I define good and bad an 8.5. Comic book movies are an awesome thing. It introduces comics to new generations that have never seen or heard or read of comics. They show them characters, and then they want to go out and learn more about the characters, which inevitably leads them to the comic books, which can teach them a lot of things in a lot of cases. You know, comic books are a great way of teaching people things. So as total, yeah, I definitely give comic book movies overall an 8.5. What about you?
My rating to rate comic books as a whole would have to be 8.5 as well, for the reason that comic book movies have become largely popular over the years. We've even seen sales for comic book t-shirts themselves, like the logos. You see more people walking around with it. They're big inside. If you go to the mall, you'll see like a Superman. You'll see more Superman t-shirts than you did now than you would have maybe like 5-6 years ago, because it was more of a thing back then where if you knew comics, you wore the t-shirt. Now anybody, the average Joe, wears it. It was like, you see guys wearing Thundercats. I'm like, do you know how many people watch Thundercats? Not many, but they're wearing it because, oh, they're superheroes. It's opened a lot of the eyes of the average moviegoer has now can watch comics, relate to it, like, oh, they're people just like us with powers. And it's done a lot of good. Unfortunately, with their good, there's bad, and they've screwed up a lot of movies, and the only people that's upset are the fans. And we want to keep the purity, but you still got to give it an 8.5 for the good it's done. DC and Marvel alike has done a lot of good for comic book movies, and people are more into comics, so 8.5.
Alright, Dev, I'd like to thank you for coming out tonight and being my guest host on this.
And it's been a pleasure being on the show, Mondo.
So, hopefully this has inspired you to go out and watch some comic book movies, maybe read a comic. So, until next time, this is Mondo. Peace out.
It's Mondo, and he rates. Mondo rates.
Mondo Rates.